Archangel Michael says, something unthinkable happened while the world was sleeping. Last night, a secret long buried in silence rose from the darkness and tore through the walls of one family's truth. What was once hidden in whispers has now become the storm that no one can escape. It didn't come from a stranger or a distant enemy, it came from someone close. A friend who had watched everything unfold in silence could no longer carry the weight of what he knew. The moment he chose to speak, the entire foundation of trust within the family cracked open like glass under pressure. Everyone had sensed that something was wrong, but no one imagined the truth would come like this. It wasn't just a confession, it was a flood of everything they had refused to face. A storm of betrayal, silence, and deep deception spilled into the open air. Archangel Michael says, the one who was supposed to protect you was the very one hiding the truth all along. And his friend, yes, his closest companion, was the unexpected key to the door that was never meant to be opened. Type Amen to get blessing 333. He arrived late at night, uninvited but urgent, eyes heavy with guilt and heart beating as if it carried 1,000 regrets. The family opened the door, unaware that the moment would change their legacy forever. He couldn't sit anymore with the lie he'd helped cover, and he knew if he didn't speak now, he never would. The words he spoke were not just painful, they were shattering. Every name, every detail, every moment of deceit spilled into the room like wildfire. No one breathed. No one blinked. Time seemed to freeze as the truth echoed off the walls. One by one, faces dropped and memories rewrote themselves in real time. What they thought they knew about their bloodline, their history, their protection, it all shifted into something else. Reality was rewritten before their eyes. He revealed that someone in the family had been carrying out a plan in secret for years. A plan to silence a truth that could bring shame, a truth that involved money, betrayal, and a hidden identity that no one wanted to face. Type Amen to get blessing 528. The truth was not about something small, it was about someone's entire life being stolen from them. The person they thought was a brother was not who he claimed to be. The person they respected most was the one who created the lie from the beginning. A house built on deception may look beautiful, but eventually, the rot underneath will bring it down. The one who lied kept doing it because he thought no one would ever speak. But the friend who spoke last night had seen too much and could no longer protect the wrong person. He was there when documents were forged. He saw the inheritance shifted to the wrong hands. He watched as innocence was blamed for crimes never committed, and the guilty stood proud without remorse. Archangel Michael says, it's time to cleanse what has been polluted. No matter how painful the truth may be, it is always stronger than the comfort of a lie. Type Amen to get blessing 747. The room filled with silence so heavy it felt like a scream that couldn't escape. No one moved. The one who had done the harm stood up in anger, tried to deny it, but his eyes betrayed him. The documents were real. The dates matched. The bank accounts showed the transfers. The lies were built so cleverly that they survived for years, but last night, the wall finally cracked. His friend had kept letters, voice recordings, pictures. Proof that couldn't be twisted or manipulated. When he placed them on the table, the family could do nothing but stare at what had been stolen right under their nose. A mother dropped to her knees. A father turned away in shame. The youngest child, confused but aware, realized that the world they grew up in was a theater of fiction built on someone else's pain. Type Amen to get blessing 919. The inheritance wasn't just money. It was land, legacy, and honor. But the person who was meant to receive it was thrown away like dust, while the one who didn't deserve it lived in luxury. The friend revealed he had tried multiple times to get the truth out, but fear kept his mouth closed. Last night, something shifted in his soul, and the guilt became unbearable. He had to speak or carry it to his grave. The family began to question everything: birth certificates, names, marriages, even deaths. The dots were always there, but no one had ever connected them. They didn't want to believe the person they trusted could be so cold. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. Archangel Michael says, now that it's in the open, healing will not be gentle, but it will be necessary. You cannot rebuild until the old, rotten walls are torn down. Type Amen to get blessing 1101. The rightful heir had left home many years ago after being made to feel unwanted. They were told they didn't belong, that they were adopted, that they were a mistake. But it was all part of the plan, to erase them from the bloodline and claim everything for another. The friend who spoke last night had seen the forged letters sent to this heir, designed to push them away. He knew the fingerprints on the lies. And now, he was ready to reveal everything, even if it cost him his relationship with the liar. People began crying, not just for what was done, but for how long it was allowed to continue. The child who grew up without love should have grown up surrounded by honor, truth, and legacy. The liar's plan was too perfect to fail. But truth is stronger than perfect lies. And now, the one who had been erased would be remembered. Type Amen to get blessing 1266. They began making calls. They searched for the one they lost. They wanted to bring them back, to show that finally, the truth had found its voice. The friend who spoke became the unexpected angel that turned the darkness into light. But the liar wasn't done yet. He tried to make another plan, to rewrite the story again. He wanted to pay off the friend, to delete the documents, to control the family's grief. Archangel Michael says, no darkness can survive where the light of truth has been planted. The attempt to cover up the past again will only bring more destruction. The winds have changed. And the person who once suffered will soon stand tall. Type Amen to get blessing 1442. Messages were sent. Evidence was submitted to the proper places. A lawyer in the family stepped in to make sure this time, justice would not be delayed. The liar's world began to fall apart, his friends distanced themselves, his business took a hit, and the respect he once forced from others turned into disgust. His arrogance became his downfall. But the one who had been erased was found again. Living quietly. Scarred, but alive. When they were contacted, they didn't believe it at first. Until the voice of the friend cracked through the phone, crying, apologizing, and telling them everything. They returned not with anger, but with silence. They stood in the doorway of the house they were exiled from, and watched the faces that once looked away now lower their eyes. Type Amen to get blessing 1599. The family gathered in front of them. The old wounds opened again, but this time, it was not to cause pain, it was to clean them for healing. The mother reached out, trembling, her eyes pleading without words. The father cried harder than he ever had before. The siblings stared, ashamed that they had never asked more questions. The friend stood beside them, protective, loyal, and no longer afraid. He had done the right thing. And though it cost him everything, he felt free. Archangel Michael says, redemption begins with one act of courage. The past cannot be erased, but the future can be rewritten. Type Amen to get blessing 1740. The liar tried one last time to twist the truth. But now, everyone saw him for what he truly was. And when he was removed from the home, from the legacy, and from the honor he stole, it felt like a storm had finally cleared. The rightful heir didn't want revenge. They only wanted peace. They asked for no more than what was truly theirs and gave back more than anyone expected. They started restoring what had been broken, relationships, memories, love. What was once divided now had a chance to heal. The home became a place of truth again. The walls that once echoed with secrets now echoed with freedom. Type Amen to get blessing 1888. Archangel Michael says, in every family, truth has its time to rise. And when it does, it clears the air for generations to breathe new life. What was done in the dark may have hurt, but what is now revealed will protect the children to come. The strength it takes to reveal a secret is not weakness, it is divine purpose. To the one who spoke up last night, you may have broken a silence, but you saved a soul. To the one who returned after being rejected, your dignity remains untouched. And to the one reading this, understand this moment was not random. This message found you because there is something you were meant to remember. Type Amen to get blessing 2002. The next few days were not quiet. News of what happened in the family began to ripple outwards, like a rock dropped into still water. Neighbors whispered. Extended relatives began calling. Some were shocked, others claimed they always knew something was wrong but were too afraid to say it. The friend who had revealed the truth became both a hero and a threat, depending on who you asked. But one thing no one could deny, he had told the truth when no one else dared to. His voice became the sword that sliced through years of manipulation, greed, and deception. Healing didn't come easily, and it wasn't immediate. The wounds left by betrayal aren't like scrapes that heal with time, they're deep, emotional, and take courage to face. Yet each time the family gathered, now with the rightful heir sitting among them, there was progress. Type Amen to get blessing 2140. The old photo albums were brought out. For the first time in years, they looked at the pictures not as trophies of pride, but with a longing to understand the story behind each face. One picture, in particular, made everyone pause. It was of the rightful heir as a child, standing apart from the others at a family gathering. They hadn't realized then how excluded he looked, how distant his smile was. But now, that image spoke louder than 1,000 words. That was the day he was pushed away, quietly and deliberately, all to protect a lie. The heir looked at that picture with tears that didn't fall. He was stronger now, not because he hadn't broken, but because he had rebuilt himself with the pain. And now, being seen, truly seen, was worth more than anything they could give him. They sat down together and listened to him speak. For the first time, his voice mattered. Type Amen to get blessing 2301. He spoke of his childhood, of feeling the cold glances, of hearing the half-whispers. He remembered when he was told to leave, how no one stopped him. How the one who lied made sure he never looked back by leaving scars deeper than anyone could see. But now he had returned, not to seek vengeance, but to reclaim what was his name, his seat at the table, his place in the story. The friend who had exposed the lie stood beside him the entire time. He didn't speak unless asked, but his presence reminded everyone that truth always has an ally, even if it takes years to reveal itself. Archangel Michael says, "The light of truth never burns out, it just waits for the right moment to rise." Type Amen to get blessing 2466. The liar, now cast out, tried to manipulate from afar. He contacted people, made excuses, even claimed he was the victim of jealousy. But the documents told a different story. The voice recordings were undeniable. His mask was gone. He was forced to face the law, not just the family. Legal action was underway, and this time, no bribe, no threat, and no charm could save him. Justice was finally in motion. The friend gave all he had saved, emails, letters, witness statements. He refused payment. He wanted only peace for the one who suffered. He said, "This was never about me. This was about correcting a wrong I helped cover." He walked away with dignity, not power. That is what true courage looks like. Type Amen to get blessing 2599. As the seasons began to change, so did the home. The energy inside shifted. Laughter returned, not forced, but natural, like fresh air after a long storm. The rightful heir slowly began taking over the responsibilities that were meant to be his all along. He restored the broken traditions. He reopened conversations that had been shut for decades. He turned the house back into a home. One room was kept empty. It was the room where the lies had been made. No one went inside. But eventually, they opened the door, not to forget the past, but to face it with new eyes. They redecorated it with truth. Archangel Michael says, "The spaces once filled with deception will now hold only light." Type Amen to get blessing 2744. And the heir wasn't the only one who changed. The younger siblings began to see the world differently. They saw the strength it took to return, the strength it took to forgive. They followed his example. They asked for forgiveness. They admitted they should have seen more, said more, done more. He accepted their apologies, not with pride, but with grace. That's what made him the true leader of the family. The mother, once blinded by fear and comfort, began to grieve differently. She no longer cried for the liar, she cried for the years lost with her real child. She promised to make it right. And every day, she tried. The father grew quieter. He didn't speak much, but he watched. And one day, he said softly, "Thank you for coming back." Type Amen to get blessing 2888. The liar was finally held accountable. The court ordered restitution. The documents were corrected. The heir's name was restored in every legal record, and the inheritance officially returned to its rightful place. The family felt lighter. It wasn't about the money, it was about justice. And for once, they could look each other in the eyes without hiding behind guilt. The heir took one final step. He chose to build a small center in town, for people who had been cast out unfairly. He named it Truth's Shelter. He didn't want others to suffer in silence the way he had. People came. They cried. They healed. And through his pain, he gave others their strength. Type Amen to get blessing 3003. Archangel Michael says, one act of bravery can start a chain of healing across generations. The friend who spoke last night thought he was just telling a secret, but he set a whole legacy free. The heir now speaks to others, not as a victim, but as a survivor, a warrior of truth. His story inspires people who feel forgotten, abandoned, erased. Every time someone tries to silence you, remember, truth is patient. It doesn't disappear, it waits. And last night, truth chose to speak. Type Amen to get blessing 3133. So if you are reading this, and there's something inside you that's been aching to be known, let it rise. You never know how many lives your courage will affect. You never know how many hearts are waiting for one truth to unlock their healing. The friend who could have stayed silent, chose to be loud. The heir who could have stayed gone, chose to return. The family who could have stayed broken, chose to begin again. And the liar who thought he'd never be caught? He forgot that no lie survives forever. Let this message echo in your spirit. Type Amen to get blessing 3277. There will be a time when your silence will feel like betrayal to your own soul. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Speak your truth like the friend did. Reclaim your place like the heir did. Forgive with strength. Heal with fire. Let the truth move through you, not to destroy, but to rebuild what was lost. Archangel Michael says, last night was not random. It was a divine release. A correction of destiny. And now, the door is open. Step into your power. Carry the truth like a sword, and protect what's yours. Type Amen to get blessing 3401. The ripple of truth didn't just stop at the family, it spread beyond them. Distant relatives who had distanced themselves came forward, shaken by what they heard. Some cried in disbelief, others in guilt. Messages poured in, apologies were made, and broken branches of the family tree began to connect again. One elderly uncle, who had once been silenced for asking questions years ago, wrote a letter. In it, he said, I knew something was wrong. But no one listened. Now that truth has come, I can finally sleep. That letter now sits framed in the living room, beside the picture of the heir, the friend, and the restored family. The community started seeing the family differently, not as people tied by blood only, but by resilience, humility, and the courage to admit mistakes. No one looked at them with pity. Instead, they looked with awe. Type Amen to get blessing 3577. The heir never once asked anyone to bow to him, or beg. He simply led by example. He reminded them of forgotten values, honesty, justice, quiet strength. In every gathering, he brought laughter, light, and calm that had long been missing. Even the children could feel it. They sat around him, listening to stories not of anger or revenge, but of how love survives even when it is abandoned. He told them, "Your name is your legacy, but your truth is your crown." And slowly, the house that had once echoed with lies now sang with healing. There was music, there were dinners, there were honest prayers again. Every corner felt new, even though it was old. That's what truth does, it cleans what shame once painted. And as for the friend, he became something more than just a friend, he became family. Type Amen to get blessing 3700. He was given a room in the house, though he didn't ask for it. The heir made sure he was honored, cared for, and protected. "You risked everything," he said. "Now let us give you the peace you never had." For the first time in years, the friend slept without fear. His dreams stopped shaking him awake. He was no longer haunted by the weight of what he knew. He was part of a story that ended in redemption. He had watched the liar build a tower of lies brick by brick. He knew that speaking out would mean being hated by some, attacked by others. But still, he chose to speak. And now, people looked at him with respect in their eyes, not suspicion. Archangel Michael says, "The one who breaks the chain of silence becomes the torchbearer for generations." Type Amen to get blessing 3844. The liar, even in his isolation, continued to resist. But he had no more cards to play. His accounts were frozen. His name, once used to intimidate, now only brought shame. He became the ghost of his own making. He watched from afar as the family he tried to control stood stronger without him. That was his real punishment, not prison, not fines, but irrelevance. He was no longer needed, no longer followed, no longer feared. And the heir never wished harm on him. "Let him live with the silence he tried to bury me with," he said. "That is enough." Even when others called for harsher punishment, the heir simply moved forward. That's what true leaders do, they don't dwell in revenge. They build legacies. Type Amen to get blessing 3977. The home, once the scene of betrayal, now became the birthplace of something new. A family reunion was planned. Not out of formality, but from a genuine desire to gather again, honestly, transparently, and joyfully. People flew in from different cities. Some hadn't spoken in decades. But the presence of truth created a space where all could meet without masks. They laughed, cried, and promised to never let lies divide them again. The heir stood at the center of it all, not as a ruler, but as a living symbol of what it means to overcome. He raised a glass and said, "This home isn't built on walls anymore, it's built on truth. And no one can steal that again." Archangel Michael says, "You may lose your comfort, your pride, and even your name, but if you hold on to truth, you'll gain something greater, unshakable freedom." Type Amen to get blessing 4122. If you have ever been silenced, ignored, pushed aside, this story is your reminder. The ones who try to erase you are never as powerful as they think. The truth has its own timing, and when it speaks, no lie can hide. Let this be your sign that the truth inside you matters. Let this be your fire to keep going. You don't need the world to believe you. Only the courage to believe in yourself. The night the friend spoke was not just a confession, it was a divine intervention. And when the air returned, it wasn't just a reunion, it was a prophecy fulfilled. To you, the reader, Archangel Michael is whispering, it's your turn now. Your truth is rising. Type Amen to get blessing 4266. You were never meant to be forgotten. You were never meant to be silent. The storm that hit your life wasn't your ending, it was your awakening. Take the lessons from this message and place them in your heart. Speak your truth when you are ready, but know this, when you do, the world will never be the same. Because when one person rises, others feel the permission to rise too. The truth spreads like wildfire, not to destroy, but to cleanse. And in that cleansing, a new life begins. Type Amen to get blessing 4400.